Hi, this is Steve from Nothing Ventured, Nothing Gained, here to bring you a new video on how to play Pathfinder Second Edition, published by Paizo. In this video, we're going to talk about afflictions, how to deal with them, what they are, and how to run them in your games. So stay tuned. So we're talking about afflictions. Now, afflictions could be something as simple as being poisoned by a variety of poisons in the game. It could be something from a spell that curses you or gives you disease. It could also be a disease from a monster itself. It could be some curse, some latent magical effect. There's a variety of things that can cause afflictions. They all kind of operate in a very similar way. Anytime you're initially exposed to whatever affliction it is, you have to make a save based on an affliction. Now, each affliction is going to have a different DC and potentially different save. They don't all operate on fortitude saves. Some of them affect the mind, so it may be a will save. So just keep in mind that don't assume that it's a fortitude save just because it's an affliction. In this case, we're going to look at a mummy guard. We're going to look at a mummy guardian, which is a level 6 creature, and its mummy rot is a DC 22 fortitude save. To get exposed to this, the mummy has to hit you with its fist attack. So the mummy successfully hits you with its fist. It does whatever damage it's going to do, and then you have to make a save to see if you've been diseased by the mummy's rot. Now, the mummy's rot here is both a curse and a disease. So things that affect curses or things that affect diseases can help you when you're trying to deal with being rotted by a mummy. But the first thing you do is you're going to make that save. So in this case, it's a DC 22 fortitude save, and that determines whether you have it or not. So if you succeeded the save, you never got it, you're lucky enough to dodge out most of the rot, and then you have no ill effects. If you fail is when it gets interesting. So anytime you fail and you enter an affliction, so basically you've received the affliction and you're now at a stage. Now, if you succeeded or critically succeeded the save, you have no ill effects. Everything is fine. If you fail, you go to stage 1. If you critically fail, you jump straight to stage 2, and you take the effects of that affliction. Now, some afflictions have what is called an onset time, meaning you make the save immediately, but you don't feel the effects, whether it's damage, a condition, or something like that. You don't feel the effects until that onset time sets in. But in this case, the mummy's rot, there is no onset time. It just affects you immediately. So let's assume the fact that you didn't roll too badly and you have failed the check, failed the save to now you have a contracted mummy rot. This puts you at stage 1 of the mummy rot. Now, stage 1, that isn't really too bad. Stage 1, it states you are a carrier of mummy rot, which means you potentially can give it to others, but there's no other ill effects. Now, something to keep in mind there is when you look at these afflictions, each stage is going to have an amount of time next to it. It's going to be in parentheses and it's have an amount of time. In this case, the stage 1 time is 1 minute. So you're affected by stage 1 for 1 minute. At the end of that minute, you have to save again. Now, this will check to see if, did you get better? Just by your body kind of like squeezing out the mummy rot and you kind of just, over time just was not affected by it. Or did you get worse? And getting worse is bad. Getting worse is always bad. So let's assume that you fail after a minute. So you're in combat, you're battling the mummy, and you've defeated the mummy. So this is a good thing. So now a minute passes. So maybe the fight took a minute. Maybe a fight took 5 rounds or whatever the case may be. So after a minute, you're going to have to make another save because that time limit of stage 1 has elapsed. Then you make a check against the same DC that we checked before. This is DC 22 fortitude save. And we'll see, did we get better? Did we get worse? If you fail or critically fail, you increase your stage by the listed amount. So if you fail, you go up by 1 stage. If you critically fail, you go up by 2 stages if there's 2 stages available. Or you just go to the worst stage. So in this case, mummy rot is only 2 stages. It's stage 1 and stage 2. So stage 1, like I said before, it's you're a carrier of mummy rot, but there's no other ill effects, so you may not even notice that you have mummy rot. So stage 2 is when things get a lot worse. You take 4d6 negative damage and are stupefied 1. Now remember, each stage has its own time frame, and they can be different from stage to stage. Remember, stage 1 was 1 minute. After a minute, we had to check again to see, did we get worse or better? The second stage is the second stage of Mummy Rot is a day. So you don't check again until the next day. Just like making a failure pushes you down 1 stage and making a critical failure pushes down 2 stages if it's available, making a success pushes you up 1 stage, and making a critical success pushes you up 2 stages, all the way down to 0. And if you've eventually gotten to the beyond stage 1, meaning you've hit stage 0, which doesn't really, there is no stage 0, means you've cured yourself. Means your body has fought off whatever thing is trying to defeat it, and now you're all good. So there's a special rule though with Mummy Rot, is that the damage from Mummy Rot cannot be healed as normal. And if Mummy Rot is the thing that kills you, your body turns to dust and you cannot be resurrected unless you have a very high level, I think a 7th level resurrect spell, which is a quite high level resurrect magic. So this damage from Mummy Rot cannot be healed unless you've removed Mummy Rot completely. So you're going to be down hit points until you get rid of this. So this is now a major concern for your character, because it's 4d6 damage, and the 4d6 damage at level 6, that could be quite a lot of damage that you can't heal back until you've removed the rot of the mummy. But let's just say, okay, we took the 4d6 damage, and now we have our basically our total hit points effectively reduced by that amount. Now it's the next day. Now maybe we know that something's wrong because we just took damage and we're stupefied. So now maybe we're taking precautions to try to boost our save, but maybe it's not enough. So the next day happens. So 24 hours later, we make a new save and we failed again. Maybe we didn't think it was a big deal. Maybe we thought, oh, look, I'm a barbarian. I got plenty of con. I don't need to waste these potions. We can use these potions for other people. I didn't need the +1 or +2, but we rolled really badly. And now we've affected by stage 2 again. So you take the 4d6 damage again, and this will keep happening until you get out of stage 2. And potentially, if you go back to stage 1, you can fall back to stage 2. So this is something that you have to deal with. So we'll keep taking the stage 2 damage so long as that's the stage we enter. You always take the effect of the end stage that you enter. So let's take a look at a poison. Going back from stage 1 to stage 2 has cumulative effects. So most poisons have what is called an onset time. So like I said, you drink that wine, you're schmoozing with the NPCs. There's 1 or 2 of the NPCs that really don't like what you're doing as a player. You're kind of really foiling their plot, but you don't know that they're a bad guy. So they had one of their crony assassins poison you with some arsenic in your food and your wine. So now we're dealing with a poison instead of a disease or a curse. So this is why that very much of these afflictions work in a very similar way. So unlike Mummy Rot happens instantly. So you get hit, I have Mummy Rot. With poison, since it takes time to work through your system, there's an onset time. So I drink the wine, I am now poisoned by arsenic, I'm going to go to stage 1 because I failed my save. I don't take the ill effects until the onset time has elapsed. So in this case, it's 10 minutes. So I drink the wine, 10 minutes later, ooh, I don't feel so good. And you take and let's say we're assuming that we failed the save, and now we hit the effects of the stage 1. So like, oh, I don't feel so good. And you take a d4 points of poison damage, and you are sickened. And this will last for 1 minute. So after a minute, just like in the Mummy Rot, after a minute, now we have to make another save based on the arsenic's DC or difficulty to see whether we get better. And like I said, we can kick out of stage 1 into stage 0, which means we're cured. Or we're going to maybe get worse. So the saving throw for arsenic, in this case, is DC 18, and it is a fortitude save. And like I said, we talked about before, it has an onset of 10 minutes, and it has a maximum duration. Now, this is something we didn't see in diseases because your body's going to keep trying to fight the disease until it gets rid of it. But certain effects, like poisons, do have a maximum duration, meaning you're going to get affected by this no matter how badly you do. So long as it doesn't kill you, you're going to be affected by this for a set amount of time. So this is what that duration is for. It's maximum duration. So it's maximum duration because you can effectively cure yourself beforehand using magic. You can cure yourself by just making good fortitude saves and getting out of the stage. But even if you do the worst, and the worst you can do, and you keep failing your checks and you don't deal with it at all, this is going to last for 5 minutes, and then it's going to go away. So similar to a mummy rot, we can fail or critically fail the save. If we drink the drink, and we fail, we're going to go to stage 1, take that D4 damage, and take that second condition. And then a minute later, we're going to start the process of working through the stages, either coming out of it or getting worse or getting better. But if we critically fail, we're going to jump straight to stage 2 and take the stage 2 effects at the end of that 10 minutes. So the stage 2 effects, instead of a D4 damage, it is a D6 damage and sickened 2. Instead of sickened 1. So we increase the die size to more damage, to a D6, and now we're sickened 2 but in this case, the stage 2 is also 1 minute long. So at most, you're going to take 5 saves, the initial save, and then 5 more saves after that. So key to note is the maximum duration of the poison doesn't start until the onset time has elapsed. So it's like, wait a minute, if I have to wait 10 minutes to be affected by the poison, how can it be 5 minutes long? It's 5 minutes long once it starts affecting you. So we have to wait that 10 minutes, and then once that 10 minutes elapsed, now we start the 5-minute timer of how many times do we have to make this check. Now each stage is 1 minute, so hence 5 checks. If we do the absolute worst, we're going to hit this stage 5 times and then be quote unquote better. Kind of. Stage 3 is 2d6 damage and sicken 3. So that's really bad. So keep in mind, a lot of afflictions will inflict upon you other conditions. So what that means is it's entirely possible that a condition caused by an affliction remains after the affliction has gone away. So say I'm sickened 3, and now I eventually make my save and I'm out of, or the 5 minutes has elapsed, and like, oh man, it took a whole bunch of damage. I don't feel so good. And now I'm sickened 3. You still use the regular condition rules for the condition. So just because I'm no longer poisoned by the arsenic doesn't mean my sicken goes away. The damage doesn't keep going, but we have to look back at the sicken rules to see when does sicken go away. Well, sicken goes away is I have to start heaving and taking those actions to try to reduce the sicken value on my own. On the other side, the frightened value, say one of these conditions inflicts frightened on you. Based on the rules of frightened, your frightened condition goes down by 1 at the end of every round. So in essence, you could be frightened for the initial part of it, and then you're not frightened anymore, but you're still afflicted by whatever thing caused you to be frightened. Whether it's a mental poison or some sort of magical effect that caused you to have some disease or curse, and that maybe affected you mentally. So keep in mind, the regular rules for conditions still apply, even though the affliction may be gone. So maybe an affliction caused you to be drained. So drained only goes down once per day after you've gotten 8 hours of rest. Unless somehow you'll be able to get rid of the condition faster, like magic. So this is how afflictions work: is you enter, assuming you fail the initial save, you now enter into the stages based on your save. So, stage 1 if you fail, stage 2 if you critically fail, and then the exact opposite for when you're trying to make the saves to get out. If you keep succeeding your saves, you'll keep reducing your stages. Remember, if you're at the higher stage, say like you're stage 3 in the case of the arsenic, and you make your save and you go to stage 2, you immediately take the stage 2 effects. So even though you're getting better, you're still going to take that D6 damage. You're still going to be sickened 2, unless you're still sickened 3 from the stage 3. So this is when that things will start changing. And then hopefully you get better sooner. But just keep in mind, some of those conditions are going to linger past the total affliction, if they're those conditions that last longer and have to be dealt with in their own way. So there is actually a modification that can be made to afflictions, and it's using the virulent trait. Virulent afflictions are much harder to get rid of. So as we said, remember when we make a save on an affliction, if we fail, we increase our stage by 1, and if we critically fail, we increase our stage by 2. right? That's standard. Regular afflictions, we make our save, we succeed, our stage goes down by 1, and we take the new save, we take the new stage, whatever stage we just entered, and then if we critically succeed, and it goes down by 2, which is good, and then we take whatever stage we just entered, unless that was stage 0, and then we're done. Virulent, to go down 1 stage, meaning to get better, say we're stage 2 of whatever virulent disease, maybe this is a super powerful strain of arsenic, and you as the DM wanted to make it a little tougher for the player characters to get out of being poisoned by arsenic. And you make it a little, maybe you increase the save, but maybe you say you make it virulent, right? So the increasing stage, so failing and critically failing don't change. That still works the same way. But to get better, to go up 1 stage, so let's say we're stage 2, we're going to stage 1, we're trying to at least, you need 2 consecutive saves to go to stage 1 or to improve to any stage. And critically saving means you just go up 1 stage. So if we're at stage 2, normally a critical save will put us to stage 0, which means we're done. But a virulent one will go from stage 2 to stage 1 on a critical save, and 2 saves of success to go from stage 2 to stage 1. So it's much harder to get out of, and it's much more important that the player characters use all their resources to get out of a virulent save, because you could be stuck in one of these virulent afflictions for quite a while, especially if it doesn't have an end maximum duration. So if it doesn't have maximum duration, you're going to be in there for quite a while, and potentially even being stuck in it, because some of these afflictions will cause you to have a penalty on the save you need to get out of it. So it's kind of like a spiraling down, it's a downward spiral sometimes with these afflictions, so they can be pretty nasty. So whether you've been poisoned by the assassin during the time where you got crowned the heroes of the city, that mummy punched you in the face and you started rotting away, or that evil cleric put a curse on you, these are all afflictions to use in your game. So hopefully we've helped you out. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments below, and let us know if you've used afflictions in your game. But until then, this is Steve from Nothing Ventured, Nothing Gamed. May all your die rolls be crits, and may you always roll max damage. See you later.